All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome and thank you for attending our virtual hearing resource fair. My name is Amy Waddell, for those of you who don't know me, and I'm the Community Health and Education Coordinator here at Cobb Senior Services. For quick housekeeping, all attendees are in listening mode only, but you can submit questions to the presenters via the chat box, or someone in your room with you, your facilitator, can present that question for you. We will be taking questions after each presenter and also at the end of the presentation. As you probably already know, hearing loss has devastating effects on older adults, ranging from not understanding the doctor's advice to affecting our ability to enjoy talking with family and friends, which can result in serious withdrawal and isolation. The good news is that the field of hearing has advanced so much in the last few years. We are so pleased and thankful to have several community partners to join with us today to present to you on a host of solutions to help people stay connected, as well as resources available to those with hearing loss. On the call today, we have the Georgia Center of the Deaf and Hard of Hearing, Tools for Life, and Georgia Relay. Each presenter will introduce themselves, and I'm now going to hand the presentation over to Brendan Underwood with Georgia Relay. Thank you, Brendan.
Thank you, Amy. And good morning to everyone out there. Thank you for coming to our presentation for you all. We're going to try to keep things nice and tight on time. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get into the PowerPoint. First of all, though, my name is Brendan Underwood. I am the Outreach Coordinator for Georgia Relay. And Georgia Relay is a state program that provides a variety of telecommunication services. So it's going to be those that are geared towards hearing loss, being deaf and blind altogether when both are combined, and also difficulty with speech. And a little bit about Georgia Relay. We're a state program. We provide a couple different types of services. And so with that, I'm going to kind of break it down into two different sections for you today. The first thing I want to talk to you about are traditional relay services. And so the slide that you see here has a list of different types of services that we consider to be traditional relay. Now, not to worry, I'm not going to inundate you or have you take a quiz after this on all these, but what I want you to take away here is there is a variety of services based on an individual's needs. And the way it works with traditional relay, I'm a little bit of a visual person, but I want to kind of break that down for you. So in this slide, you see that there's three individuals. And so on the left, you have the doctor here, and the doctor wants to get in touch with their client. Their client has difficulty hearing or difficulty with speech, so they're a relay user. And in order for the doctor to communicate effectively to this person, they're first going to dial 711. 711 connects them with a communication assistant, this gentleman here in the middle. The communication assistant's job is to facilitate the conversation. So based on the user's needs, they're either going to act as their ears or as their voice, depending on what they need help with. And so once you're connected to the communication assistant, the doctor would give them the number of their client, which would then connect the call. And then what would happen is you would go back and forth with the conversation. And so let's say that this gentleman here, you can see he's got a equipment in front of him. It's called a TTY, and you can see he's typing something there. So he has difficulty with speech of some sort, right? And so what will happen is he would type his response. It would be sent to the communication assistant. The communication assistant would then voice for that individual which the doctor would then hear. Okay, and so it'll go back and forth. The communication assistant will then have the doctor respond, which in this case, the relay user can hear. So they would be able to hear that, and then they would simply type their response. Okay, so the point is there is a third person there, that communication assistant, which for those who are not familiar with relay, that sounds a little bit unique, perhaps. But what's going on there is, again, they are facilitating the call. They're doing it based on state and federal regulations, based on what the FCC has set. They're doing it based on what the user's preferences are. And they're not going to sit there and engage in conversation. They're simply facilitating the conversation back and forth. So again, that is what is typical of a traditional relay conversation. Now, the other side of that, remember I said we're going to kind of break it into two different types of services. The other side to that is Caption Telephone, which is something that's abbreviated to CapTel. And in this picture, you'll see a gentleman there. He's got the phone up to his head, and the phone that he has also has a screen attached to it. And what happens there is Caption Telephone is specific to an individual who's suffering from hearing loss. The Cap Telephone allows them to hear the conversation as one normally would. However, if they're missing anything, they have the screen attached to the phone and they can follow along with the captions as well. So this allows for them to stay connected. This allows for them to not miss anything, you know, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's a doctor. It's important not to miss the details. So one thing I do want to explain that is slightly different with CapTel phones versus traditional relay service. With traditional relay service, I mentioned a communication assistant. They hear both sides. They're going back and forth, helping to facilitate that. With a CapTel phone, you don't need it for them to hear both sides. So what happens is you see this other party here. This person doesn't have hearing loss. When they speak, it goes to a captioning service. All right. And the captioning service allows for the end result here in the CapTel phone to be more accurate. So what'll happen is the CapTel user still hears that person, but if they're missing anything, it's going to be on that screen in front of them. Now, voice recognition technology, it's great, but it's not perfect. And so by going through the captioning service, it's going to help create more efficiency and more accuracy to the CapTel user, and it gives them an altogether better experience. The difference essentially though is that it's not the captioning service wouldn't hear both sides of the conversation. They're just hearing the one side that needs to be captioned into the CapTel phone. So just a slight difference between traditional relay and CapTel in that regard. Now, benefits of CapTel, I kind of hinted at some of those as I was speaking last, but you know, it's going to help them to be able to understood what's being said on the other line. They're going to be able to make their calls with clarity and confidence. Increased independence. I think that's a huge one. What I see a lot with individuals who suffer from hearing loss is they may just altogether have done away with phone calls. And so then they get more isolated sometimes, and that can kind of have a crippling effect. So we're really in the business here of keeping people connected and increasing their independence. Some features of the CapTel phone. I won't necessarily read all of these. I'll let you kind of go through there. I will pinpoint a few things that stand out to me. And the first thing that I've gotten feedback from my grandmother is she loves the built-in answering machine. So what happens, my grandmother, she's widowed, she lives home alone. The doctor will call and they'll leave a message sometimes. and the doctor, whoever is speaking, maybe they speak too fast, or maybe the tone or the pitch is not right for them. My grandmother might not get all the details of whatever the doctor's saying. Maybe it's her next appointment, maybe whatever it may be. So she loves the fact that she can go in, she can still hear the message, but she also has it on the screen and it's captioned for her to follow along as well. One thing that I like to point out is CapTel has a couple different options in terms of phones. So let me actually go back real quick. I want to point out this phone right here is called a CapTel 840. And if it has access to internet, 840i. The important thing here that I want you to take away, this phone is made to be more of a traditional phone experience, if you will. This is the type of phone that I set up for my 96-year-old grandmother. She felt comfortable with a phone like this. So I'll go back to the next slide. And for an 840i, like I said, it's a traditional kind of set. So it's got traditional buttons and size. It's made to feel maybe more old school in a way, if you will. And what you need for an 840 iPhone is you need phone service, whether it's analog, which they're moving away from, or digital. You'll need internet. The internet is how you create the captions, how you receive them. And you need a standard electrical power. There is an option that is available that doesn't require internet. We always recommend where internet is available to go that route because it creates a faster connection for the captionings. In addition, we have a 2400i. So it's a different model. I'll kind of go here and circle the phone. You can see it looks a little bit different. It looks a little sleeker. It's not quite as traditional as one may be used to. The biggest thing here, the features are pretty much all the same. The biggest thing I would say is that with this, there's a speakerphone, there's Bluetooth capability, and then the screen is a touch screen. So it's a little bit more interactive. For my grandmother at her age, 96 years old, this was too much for her. She didn't need Bluetooth. She didn't need to touch the screen or anything like that. She just needed to go with something that was a little bit more standard for her. But again, what's needed is the same thing: internet, phone service, and access to power. Now, availability on the phones. This is the beautiful thing. There are a couple different ways to go about getting the phone. And we actually have the first bullet here on the screen is the equipment distribution program. The equipment distribution program for the state of Georgia is the Georgia Center for Deaf and Hard of Hearing. And they're also on this call today. So there's a route that you could go, which I don't want to take their thunder, but there's a route that you could go with them where you could you fill out their paperwork, and it's kind of based on income level. There's an eligibility threshold there, which is one option. You have a second option, which is a certification of hearing loss. And this is made to where you would go to your doctor, an audiologist. If you're a veteran and you go to the VA, you could go that route. But you're going to get your hearing loss verified. And when they sign off on the hearing loss, it makes you eligible for one of these two phones at no cost whatsoever. And then the last option is surprisingly what my grandmother did. She didn't want to do the paperwork. She just wanted the phone. And so it was a one-time purchase. It was $75, and that is also an option as well. So as a state program, I'm not here to sell you anything, right? I'm just letting you know that you have different options available for you in terms of acquiring the equipment. And again, I want to make sure that I'm clear in terms of we provide the service that the phone would use. So we're not an equipment program, but we're the service side of it. But we also think it's helpful to point you in the right direction if you do need that assistive technology and equipment. Another option to consider with CapTel is where it's set up for your computer or a tablet. In this case, you don't actually need specialized CapTel equipment. You would already use your computer, and you would set it up that way. So that is also another option as well. And then, yeah, that would conclude my section of a little bit about Georgia Relay. As an outreach coordinator, I am looking for opportunities to make presentations, to set up demos of the phones, to get out in the community. So if any of you have questions, I encourage you to put them in the chat. We can discuss those now. We have a couple minutes. But furthermore, if you feel like you would benefit from something, or you know a friend who would benefit from someone, please feel free to get in touch with me. You know, I'm happy to help, happy to be a resource. And in terms of getting in touch with me, this slide here will have information on getting in touch with me. So that will conclude my section of the PowerPoint. I'm going to check and see if we have some chats. I think we're good on questions from the chat. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off my camera and turn this over to Tori.
Thank you, Brendan. Good morning, everybody. My name is Tori Hughes, and I am the Outreach Specialist for Tools for Life, housed within the Center for Inclusive Design and Innovation at Georgia Tech. So I'm very excited to be talking to you today about the Assistive Technology program for the state, Tools for Life, and what we can offer in regards to those who are deaf or hard of hearing, and really anybody with disabilities. All right, next slide. So as you can see, I look a little different than I did when this headshot was taken. But just for descriptive purposes, currently I am wearing a gray shirt, have on glasses, and I have curly blonde hair. But here on the screen is my contact information, and I will make sure to provide that at the end of my segment as well. Okay, next slide. So we're going to be kind of going through a little bit of an agenda today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Center for Inclusive Design and Innovation, as well as Tools for Life, some of our guiding principles and our core services, as well as assistive technology strategies, solutions, and resources. And then there will be a little bit of time at the end for any questions you guys may have. Again, type them in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer them. So to kind of start out, we are housed within the Center for Inclusive Design and Innovation within the College of Design at Georgia Tech. So CIDI for short focuses on services and research in the realm and the world of accessibility. We have research focuses on accessible education, accessibility in the workplace, technology and aging, all sorts of things. It's a lot that we do, but we're so excited for it. We also have services including Braille production, captioning and described media, digital accessibility like e-text, as well as ICT or information communication technology and user experience accessibility. And then there is the Assistive Technology Services, which is Tools for Life. We are Georgia's Assistive Technology Act program. There is a program like us in every state and U.S. territory, as we are federally mandated. And our goal is to increase access to and acquisition of assistive technology devices and services so that Georgians of all ages and disabilities can live, learn, work, and play within the communities of their choice. So we don't just focus on deaf or hard of hearing, we focus on all disabilities and all ages. Okay. So a little bit more about the accessibility at CIDI. So we've got, like I said, we have Braille services, and these are customized projects as both print materials as well as electronic text for people who are blind or have low vision. We can do partial books or chapters, we can do whole books, we can do all sorts of things, including graphics, which is really pretty cool, using like a scrapbook method. So using twine and other pieces of like thick paper or poster to create a tactile image. We do have captioning and described media. So we can offer live captioning services for people who may be hard of hearing or deaf, as well as those who maybe have attention disorders or learning disabilities and need to see what's being said. So this helps to make classrooms and meetings and other sorts of audio environments fully accessible to everyone. We also provide audio descriptions of videos for those who may be blind or low vision. And it's great because if you're in a classroom and you're watching a video that only has music as far as the sound, but it's this beautiful landscape, if you're blind or low vision, you don't know what's going on. So being able to provide an audio description of what's happening is very, very accessible. We also work with e-text production. So we provide high quality e-text or electronic text in a lot of different formats, including PDFs, Word docs, HTML, DAISY, all sorts of things. Again, we can kind of do like what Braille does. We can do an entire book, we can do partial chapters, we can do certain documents or tests, all sorts of things like that. And again, this is 100% accessible. We make sure we provide alternative text for images. We make sure we provide alternative text for math equations, because since we're at Georgia Tech, we do a lot with math and science equations. So we have to, again, make sure those are accessible. We do have digital accessibility consulting, which focuses on organizational accessibility needs. So this looks at evaluations, technical assistance, customer support, as well as website accessibility solutions. So we want to make sure that websites around the world really are accessible to people who may be using a screen reader because they're blind. We want to make sure that things are accessible to those who maybe have a cognitive impairment and are able to easily navigate a website. I mean, these are just a couple of examples, but we want to make sure, again, that it's accessible. And finally, the Certified Assistive Technology team, which is Tools for Life. We help to provide assessments and demonstrations, along with trainings and technical assistance for education, work, and daily living environments. Okay, next slide. So we have an entire network across Georgia. Tools for Life may be based in Atlanta at Georgia Tech, but we serve the entire state of Georgia. We have partners literally in every corner of the state, it seems like, with Assistive Technology Resource Centers, or ATRCs, outreach centers, centers for independent living, and Aging and Disability Resource Centers, or ADRCs. So we want to make sure that no one has to drive more than about an hour to an hour and a half to get their hands on technology solutions. So for example, if someone is up in Dalton, Georgia, which is way up north compared to where we are in Atlanta, if they don't want to drive 2 hours in, they can drive about 45 minutes to an hour to Rome, to the Northwest Georgia Center for Independent Living. And then from there, if they don't have this particular device, they can get in touch with us and we can work something out. Same thing with down in South Georgia and along the coast and in the Northeast mountains. Okay, next slide. So we have 7 core services at Tools for Life, and this actually goes for all assistive technology programs across the country. So we are tasked with seven things that we have to get done, and we make sure we do that every single day. So the first is information and assistance. So this is providing consumers with information about what we do, how we do it, as well as how they can get the accessibility solutions that they need, as well as any other services. We also are tasked with AT assessments. So this is a very in-depth test, if you will, but looking to see what solution is going to work best for each person. Again, it's very in-depth, looking at every single aspect of a person's life. Unfortunately, we do have these on hold right now. But we're hoping to get them geared back up very soon once things kind of settle back down a little bit. We are also offering free assistive technology demonstrations, and I'll get more into that in a little bit, but just demonstrating assistive technology to make sure that people know what's out there and what it does. We have equipment lending. Again, I'll get more into that in a little bit, but it's all about borrowing technology to see what's going to work best, or if it doesn't work, what else can we go for? The fifth task is training. This is for individuals as well as groups. So, for example, this would be considered a training and letting people know about what we do as far as our services. But we can also cater these trainings to be all day. We can have them be just a couple of hours, and we can really focus on specific areas. We can look at just learning disabilities. We can look at just AT for the aging population. We've also done things for Disability 101 and value-laden language and all sorts of things that a lot of people don't really think about when it comes to trainings with assistive technology. The sixth is providing funding information and education as well as solutions. So we're not just here to show people what kind of technology is out there, but how they can get it for themselves. And finally, the seventh task is AT reuse. So ensuring that a piece of equipment doesn't just get abandoned and collect dust. We can make sure that it gets refurbished and then sent on to somebody else who's able to use it. Okay, next slide. So this right here is the guiding principle and public law that makes the assistive technology programs what they are. This is federal legislation within the Tech Act. And it says that disability is a natural part of the human experience and in no way diminishes the right of individuals to go to school, to have a job, to vote, to have a meaningful career, to be included in cultural and social mainstreams within the society of the United States. Honestly, we as humans are all going to be part of the disability community at some point. A lot of times we use the term TAB, T-A-B, which means temporarily able-bodied. So even as we age, we may lose our sight. We may lose some of our hearing. We may lose some of our mobility in general. So all of us are going to be part of that disability community. Even if we break our leg temporarily, we might be on crutches or using a scooter. Again, we have to think about that. So even those small temporary disabilities, if you will, still don't diminish your right to live life to the fullest, just like anybody else with a disability. Okay, next slide. So now we're going to go into assistive technology solutions. And, I keep throwing out this term AT or assistive technology. So what is it? In the simplest terms, we define it as any item or piece of equipment that can be used to increase, maintain, or improve the functional capabilities of individuals with disabilities. And this covers all aspects of life, including in the classroom, at the workplace, in the home, out in the community. Again, part of our mission is we want people living, learning, working, and playing in the communities of their choice. And in order to do that, they may need some help with assistive technology, and that is where we come in. Okay, next slide. But why assistive technology? What's so great about it? Well, for a person without a disability, assistive technology makes life easier. I know for me, for someone who doesn't identify as having a disability, automatic doors, say at the grocery store or at an airport, are wonderful because if my hands are full or if I'm pushing a really heavy grocery cart or I have a really heavy suitcase pulling behind me, I don't have to worry about pushing a door open. It just automatically opens for me. So it makes it easy. Or using my phone and using speech to text. I don't have to use my thumbs or anything. I can just voice it and it's over. But for a person with a disability, assistive technology makes life possible. Think about those people who maybe have mobility challenges aren't able to open a door with a regular handle, or they have to wait on somebody to open the door for them. Automatic doors, let them go in like everybody else. Maybe someone, again, has low mobility in their hands, or maybe has a learning disability. Using speech to text breaks down that barrier of needing somebody to help them. They're able to do all sorts of things by themselves independently with that technology. So we like to say, use assistive technology. We have yet to meet a successful person who doesn't use any kind of assistive technology. And right here on our screen, oh, sorry, we have someone, a longtime client of ours from when we first started about 30 years ago, Greg Sharp, and he's using multiple different kinds of assistive technology. He has a headset on for Dragon Naturally Speaking to control his computer. He has a sip and puff device on his wheelchair so he can control it. He has a lap tray to help keep papers steady and books steady. So again, use assistive technology. You're never sure what's going to happen when you don't use it. Okay, next slide. So we like to look at assistive technology, finding those solutions with a team approach. So of course we do focus on the person with the disability, and we will focus on their circle of support as well as their family of choice, but we look well beyond that. Who does that person interact with on a daily basis? Is it a teacher? Are there case managers? Are there occupational therapists or speech language pathologists? What about neighbors? Bus drivers, anybody that person wants to include, we are happy to make sure that they are included in that team. You know, if you think about maybe a young child, a student who is going to and from school on the bus, maybe they need a little bit of assistance to ensure that they get on and off safely, as well as if they have a specific kind of device that the bus driver needs to be aware of. So again, including that bus driver is a great idea. Okay, next slide. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our AT demos and lending library. So as I mentioned earlier, our demonstrations are completely and totally free of charge. This is a great way to learn about different devices. And again, this is across all disabilities. It could be for refreshable Braille displays. It could be for magnifying glasses. It could be for an iPad or speech device or all sorts of things. And it's a great way to learn about different devices and what's going to work best for each individual person. We leave it up to the consumer's choice. We don't say you have to have this specific item. You know, it's not a cookie cutter model. Not everybody fits into that. So we want to make sure that the consumer is aware of what is out there and can then make their own informed choice on what kind of assistive technology they want for themselves. And then once that takes place, we do have a lending library for assistive technology. Think of it like a regular library for books. You can check something out and use it and then bring it back. First, what's in the low no tech section that may be able to accomplish the tasks? So these things could be picture schedules. They could be a dry erase board, someone just reading out loud, all sorts of things like that. Really, you don't think about it being assistive technology, but it's considered low or no tech. Then we can move on into our mid-tech section, which are things like your spell checkers, text to speech or speech to text, adapted keyboards, apps under $100. So these would be things for like mindfulness or scheduling, all sorts of things that are under $100. And then we can look into our high tech. So apps over $100, which is on the totally different end. So these would be a lot of your communication apps that are very robust. These other things in the high tech side would be environmental controls, such as Amazon Echo or the Google Home. Also, OCR, or ocular character recognition software, so things that are going to read out loud. Your smartphones, your laptops, your tablets, all of these are considered high tech. So again, looking at things from the low tech end all the way through the high tech end to see what's going to work best for each individual person's needs and abilities. Okay. But of course, doing all this, how do we then get that technology? You know, I mentioned earlier, as far as one of the 7 tasks that we are given as part of an Assistive Technology Act program is funding education. So we do provide a funding guide to people of Georgia, to residents of Georgia. And this is a great way to go through and find other organizations or other strategies to find funding solutions to acquire that technology. We also have G-Trade and Ed-Trade. These are direct exchanges between users. So G-Trade is, if you will, almost like a Craigslist for assistive technology. So if someone maybe has a magnifying glass that is just not strong enough anymore, then they can put it up on G-Trade and say, you know, this goes up to 15 times magnification, and I need something that's 20. So we can actually exchange things. And again, it helps to reduce a device abandonment, because someone then can then get that device so it's not just sitting around gathering dust. Ed-Trade is very similar. However, it is just between educators. It is assistive technology exchanges between teachers and assistive technology staff within the school systems, so that they can keep it within the school systems. And last, we do have an online resource called Dollars and Cents, and this is a way to provide help in creating a funding strategy for each individual person. Same as with the demonstrations, we are not here to give anybody a cookie cutter mold that they have to fit into in order to purchase technology. We're here to help get them whatever it is that they need in the best way possible. No one's going to fit into the same mold as everybody else. Okay, next slide. So I'm going to finally touch on some of our training and outreach as part of our program. So I myself am the outreach specialist, and I tend to be the first point of contact for people when they get in touch with us for information and assistance, as well as trainings. So we do have a telephone number that you're welcome to call. It's up on the screen right now. You can also send us an email, and that comes to me and several others on our team. And what I do is I tend to gather a little bit more information before then sending it out to our team to see who's going to be the best fit to fulfill that request. We also have an option on our website called How Can We Help? It's on the left-hand side of our homepage near the bottom, and it's a form that you can give us a little bit more information, whether you want funding information or training assistance, or you're just getting regular old information in general about our services. You can give us a little bit of a comment, and again, that comes to me, and I can see what I can do to expedite it along. And same thing with trainings. You can get in touch with us for group trainings, for individuals. We actually have a couple of images on our screen right now. The one on the bottom on the left-hand side, excuse me, is a training for a communication strategy. And then on the opposite side is a group of certified occupational therapy assistant students from Brunel University coming and taking a tour of our lab, which we haven't done in a while since our team is still primarily working from home, but we're hoping very soon we can provide those tours again. Okay, next slide. We are always online. We are always online. Even before the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have always tried and strived to provide assistance virtually. We have a lot of our consumers who are not able to come to us, even if they are in the Atlanta area. So we always want to make sure there is some sort of virtual component anyway. But now we're able to provide these online trainings and demonstrations to everybody. It's actually opened up a lot of doors for us. We can provide a little bit of an access or AAC lab tours of our facility. We have been able to provide breakout sessions for conferences and virtual exhibit halls. We can do things like this, a virtual resource fair, and it's great. Again, this is a benefit where everybody can be a part of it because of accessibility. This right here is just an example of that virtual accessibility that we've been able to provide within the last couple of years. So in conclusion, we want to say that AT helps. Assistive technology strategies and solutions can help support so many people, especially those with a variety of disabilities within the workplace, within the home, within the school. We want to help bridge that gap between the disability and the ability. So assistive technology helps to provide solutions for seeing, for hearing, for memory and cognition, for daily activities like getting dressed or brushing your teeth or being able to feed yourself, even socializing. So again, like I said earlier, use assistive technology. Again, we've yet to meet a successful person who doesn't use any kind of assistive technology. And at that, I want to open it up for any questions that anyone has. Please feel free to type in the chat, and I'll see what I can answer. Okay.
This is Brendan. I don't think that we had any questions for you, Tori. Thank you so much for a very information-heavy presentation. Gosh, there's so many resources that you all are able to provide.
It's a lot. We do. We have a lot of services, and it feels like we are always doing something. And I want to give a shout out actually to Amy Waddell about the AT lab that Cobb Senior Services has. We were able to collaborate with them a few years ago and open that up so that people within the Cobb County area are able to access assistive technology. And again, we work really closely with Amy and her team. So again, Amy, thank you so much for this opportunity. And yes, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to get in touch with us. Yeah, we'll be happy to help.
Awesome. Thank you, Tori. So yeah, we'll go ahead and if you guys think of a question after the fact, go ahead and type it into the chat, and we'll make sure to answer all of those here at the end. But I do want to go ahead and get Andrea from Georgia Center for Deaf and Hard of Hearing going. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Andrea.
All right, wonderful. Thank you, Brendan. So hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Andrea Kemp, and I do work for the Georgia Center for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. I am the outreach specialist for the equipment distribution program. And this is my contact information here on this slide. So our agency provides a number of services for folks who are deaf-blind, hard of hearing, who have a combination of vision and hearing loss, as well as their families and friends. Our equipment distribution program, we actually have two different programs. One is the telecommunications equipment distribution program, and that is for folks who experience hearing loss only, as well as folks who experience any kind of speech impairment. And I'll give a little bit more information in depth. And then there's another program that's federally funded called I Can Connect for folks who have a combination vision loss and hearing loss. And I will expand a little bit more on that as we go along. So we are funded by the Public Service Commission, the PSC. So we are a state-funded program, and that is your tax bills, tax dollars hard at work. And that allows us to provide all of this equipment free to everyone who qualifies for our services. It is at no charge to them. So then to talk a little bit more about hearing loss, that's really, lands on a spectrum. It's anything from 1% hearing loss, which would be obviously considered very mild, to a severe hearing loss. We have a variety of equipment to match each of our customers or consumers at their level of hearing. And next slide. And this talks a little bit about our eligibility requirements. We are income-based as a program, and that just means if you earn 200% or less than the poverty level in the state, and that is for one person in the household, then that is your level, and then that multiplies as you have more people in your home. So you do provide a utility, including a phone bill, as well as proof of residency. So a driver's license or some kind of picture ID, just proof that you live in the state. Or if you don't have that, you could also provide an additional utility bill along with the telephone bill as proof of residency, and then proof of hearing loss. And so that is just a signature by an audiologist, a hearing aid specialist, a senior citizen center director, a VR counselor, an SLP, a primary care physician. There's a variety of specialists who are permitted to sign off on that hearing loss. Next slide. This is just a visual look of what the application looks like. So you can find the application online on our website, print that out, and fill it out that way. Or you can fill it out digitally online and submit it that way. And then we also have the ability to receive it via mail or fax machine. But it really is self-explanatory. It goes step by step of everything we require to start the process of qualification. And so it's all laid out there for you. You can see it. And next slide. So I will start with the caption phones. You'll see there on the bottom. Brendan just explained a little bit about these, so I don't have to go really in depth. And now you know that how they work, and how the system works of using the communication assistant. All the information is kept confidential. They are just there to facilitate the communication. So you are speaking for yourself, but again, reading that communication that comes in. If you miss something, you have it captioned. We do have phones available that require an internet connection, and then those that will work without an internet connection as well. We do also have corded and cordless amplified phones. And so some folks really like the freedom of walking around with a cordless phone. That is very popular. The picture here in the top left corner, that is especially popular with our consumers because of the slow talk button. There is one on the handset that you can hit, and let's say, if you're in conversation with somebody and they're speaking too quickly and they are hard to understand, you can hit the slow talk button on your end, and that will slow the incoming speech and make it easier to understand. There's also a built-in answering machine with this model, and so there's a slow talk button on the answering machine as well, and that's there on the base. So let's say somebody's calling and leaving a message, speaking quickly because they're rushed, or maybe it's an accent that's hard to understand. Typically, a person would be hitting that message button 2 and 3 times to repeat the message to get all the information. And instead, now they can hit this slow talk button to get all the information in the first run, because it's all slowed down with that slow talk. And that saves them that time and frustration of having to listen through 3 and 4 times. We do also have a similar feature, but in corded phones. And again, that's more traditional phone. It's set and then you're tied down to however far that cord will reach. We can move on. We have recently added some new wireless devices to our lineup, which is very exciting. The first two on the top, you'll see top left and top right, if you don't have a landline anymore or a landline phone at all, if you rely solely on a cellular service, these devices might work best for you. There's a Quattro Pro. You'll see that it almost looks like a necklace. It hangs around your neck. It's a little disc. It can be compatible with a cell phone. I would stress a smartphone. It needs to have Bluetooth technology on that phone. And so that means that that disc, there's a top part that separates from the part that's hanging around your neck and becomes two different parts. So you put that top disc near a television if you need it to be amplified. That saves everybody in your house. Probably saves many marriages, in fact, from saying that TV is on too loud. People coming in and telling you that, you know, that volume is too loud, turn it down. Instead, you can use this amplification device near the television and it will send that amplified sound to the disc around your neck. And then there are earbuds that connect to that device. And so you get that boosted amplification directly to your ears instead of drowning out the whole house in volume. So like I said, it's been a real marriage saver for many of our clients who aren't having to fight anymore over the volume of the TV. Then moving on, you'll see the KX TGM. And so that pairs with, on the top right is the XLC Go. That is another amplification device with a cell phone. So that pairs with your cell phone and allows you to hear those conversations better and kind of gives it more of a boost than the volume that you could get through your regular cell phone. Then you'll notice the black cordless phone in the bottom left-hand corner. This is very nice because it pairs with a cell phone, which means it can connect either as a landline phone or through Bluetooth with your cell phone. You have that extra option. And so if you hear a phone ringing in your home, you can reach for whatever's closest. You can reach for your cell phone or for this handset and answer the call. And then you'll see an iPhone or an iPad in the bottom right-hand corner. These are for our clients who rely on video relay service, meaning they use ASL to communicate instead of spoken English. And so it automatically has the VRS, the video relay service, uploaded to the iPad, and they are able to communicate either through the tablet or the iPhone. It also has caption phones as well. There is an app that can be downloaded onto that iPad or iPhone. We do have 3 different kinds of alerting devices, and we call these visual alerts. And that just basically means that these are devices that are set up in your home. Let's say you are unable to hear the doorbell ring or you're unable to hear someone knocking at the door. This does the job for you. So if somebody rings your doorbell, you will see a light flash inside your home, and that lets you know, oh, someone's at the door. Okay. You know, so you don't miss your special visitors and your special guests because you can't hear the doorbell ring. Same thing with the telephone. Let's say you can't hear the telephone ring. This visual alert will light up and flash a light in your home as well to alert you that the telephone is ringing. So we do provide a variety of speech equipment for folks who have speech impairments, and we do not qualify or we do not require hearing loss for these folks to qualify. It's a little bit of it's a separate application and a little bit of a subgroup of this state-funded program. It does require a signature by an SLP. to confirm that speech impairment in order to qualify. And this just, you know, provides a little bit of a basic definition that we provide a variety of equipment for folks who have a speech or communication disorder. And we can move on. We'll show you this video. We're going to come back to it at the end. But I did want to highlight a little bit about what is the technology that is used. This is a device called the True Tone. It's actually an electrolarynx. So if there is an individual who doesn't have a voice box, it's been removed for whatever reason, this device helps folks communicate by holding it up to their throat where the voice box was. And again, this is a video that works, but it works best if we show it at the end, so we can keep moving to the next slide. All right, moving on to, oh, I'll let them pop up here. So we do have a contract with 3 separate vendors for speech equipment. One is Tobii Dynavox. The second one is Lingraphica. And then the third company we've recently added is PRC. So the speech language pathologist would be able to assess an individual client's needs and see which equipment would best serve their needs. Then they would let us know. We would be able to order the specific equipment and send that equipment directly to the client. And then the SLP would set up a training to make sure that client understands specifically how that technology would work and would work for them. Next slide. We do also provide a variety of mounts for these speech equipment and devices. Okay, so iCanConnect is our federally funded program, and that is for folks who have a combination of vision loss and hearing loss. It also has to be defined as a progressive vision loss specifically, and then some amount of hearing loss to qualify for this program.
This is Brendan. I just wanted to chime in real quick. I know that it's 11:30 and some of you at your centers may be on a tight schedule. So just wanted to chime in and let you know we have just a few minutes left. So if you're able to stick around, we encourage you to do that. We will still be open for questions and be able to answer all of those for you. But if you are in a situation where you are tight on time and do need to leave, then just want to take a quick moment to thank you for joining us today. And with that, I'll just go ahead and turn it back over to Andrea.
Perfect. Great. Thanks, Brendan. We can go to the next slide. Here we go. And this is a federally funded program for folks with a combination vision loss and hearing loss. And we can go to the next slide. And this is just an idea of some of the equipment and devices that we can provide for those who qualify for the ICC or iCanConnect. So you would meet with a specialist, see what kind of equipment would meet or devices would meet their daily needs, whether it be a desktop or a laptop computer, a variety of Apple products, Braille readers, Zoom software that enlarges things on the computer, either on an app or a laptop or a desktop even. And then there is one more, I believe, if you hit the button one more time. There we are. Also, we provide some visual alert devices. that are created specifically for folks with that dual sensory loss. And next. So we do have a few eligibility requirements. This is 400% of the federal poverty level. And so the state was a little over 25,000, which mean that federal, I'm trying to do the math in my head, I believe it's 51,000-ish per person in a household to be able to apply for this. You also need a signature by both an audiologist and an eye doctor as well, ophthalmologist. You would need a signature from both verifying the dual sensory loss, as well as proof of residency. That could be a driver's license or a photo ID. Access to internet service. We do require that for the iCan Connect folks. And next slide. These are just a few FAQs. We do provide warranties for all of our equipment, and depending on which are selected, you know, that varies a little bit. Some have 1 year, some have more than a year, depending on the specific device. If it is under warranty and something happens and it's still in that warranty time period, if something happens, something breaks, we are happy to troubleshoot that issue. If the problem does not work, if it doesn't work out, we can send that out for repairs. If it's outside of the warranty time period, we just replace the equipment for you. For the state-funded program, the Telecommunications Equipment Distribution Program, that serves folks ages 5 and older. For the federally funded iCan Connect, that is ages 7 and up. And I think I've covered the other points here, so we can move on to the next slide. And just a closing photo of our staff here at the Georgia Center for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. This is our general contact information if you need to reach us at the office as well. And this is just some basic resources and information listed here for you. Many folks ask us about hearing aids. And so we do refer all hearing aid needs to the Georgia Lions Lighthouse Club, excuse me, because they are under a state-funded program as well that specifically helps with hearing aids. And so they receive their own portion from the PSC, the Public Service Commission. So if you know someone who needs hearing aids and are unable to afford them, you can connect them with the Georgia Lighthouse Foundation. They have an application on their website as well. Should be pretty easy to access. If for some reason you're unable to find them, you can also call. They tend to offer a reduced fee for hearing aids, depending on, you know, it's a sliding scale based on an income level. I did also want to let you know that the Georgia Center for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing also provides ASL classes. And we have 2 separate hearing loss organizations that we like to refer out as well. So that first one is the Hearing Loss of America Association, excuse me. And the other is the Association of Late Deafened Adults. And then obviously a shout out to Georgia Relay and other telecommunication resources and Tools for Life. I'm so sorry about that. That was an oversight on my part. I need to add that there. But I believe that is it for my portion.
Righty. So this is Brendan, and Andrea did have a question for you, and that is, could you explain your thoughts on the use of amplifiers as opposed to hearing aids.
Sure. Well, speaking of amplifiers, and I'm guessing that's amplified, meaning amplified phones specifically. And if that's what the question meant, you know, there's a couple different paths. There are some folks that I've met with clients who have amplified phones and they say, oh my gosh, I can hear this without my hearing aid. So that gives you access. Some still require their hearing aid, again, with that sliding scale of hearing loss. It depends. But that amplified phone plus the use of the device helps. So it really depends on an individual and their preferences.
Wonderful, wonderful. The other question that we received was actually, I believe that it was for Georgia Relay. And that was, let me go back to it. Was related to Medicare and Medicaid. So the question was, does Medicare or Medicaid cover either the services that Georgia Relay provides or the equipment? And so one thing that I want to make sure is clear, all of our services are free. So there is no charge to use Georgia Relay, no matter if you're in your home, whether you're using it on a cell phone. Georgia Relay is 100% free. Related to the equipment side of things, we have it set up to where it is also free. You can go through the equipment distribution program. You can go through Andrea, the Georgia Center for Deaf and Hard of Hearing. That all of those three items are one and the same. GCDHH, Andrea, State Equipment Distribution Program. That's essentially three different names for that option. And then the other option that I mentioned was we have a form where your doctor can certify your hearing loss. It makes you eligible for a free caption telephone. And so, like, one thing to clear up, there are times where maybe someone will apply to Georgia Center for Deaf and Hard of Hearing. It's a client that Andrea's working with. They may be overqualified. Maybe they're making too much money. Well, they would refer them to us in that case because we can simply give them a form where the doctor just needs to verify the hearing loss and then they get the phone for free. So just to make sure we're clear there is no costs related to Georgia Relay services or the equipment. And so to answer the Medicare Medicaid question, it's really not needed in order for us to get you set up. So great question as well. And I think that covers all of our questions.
I just wanted to add that as well. This is Andrea. We don't require any insurance as well. We get that question a lot.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrea.
And you did have a question about upgrading an existing CapTel phone or account, I believe.
Sure. Thank you, Amy. This is Brendan. I'll go ahead and answer that. So if you have one model and would prefer to get a different model, we're happy to exchange those for you. And yeah, I think that should answer that question. There are some nuances to the answer of that question as well. So I don't want to just say one answer that will apply to every question kind of thing. But yes, we would be happy to help you get set up with a different CapTel phone if what you're having now you don't feel like is working for you. And so with that, I think that covers all the questions. Amy, do you want to close us out or do you want me to close us out?
Well, I thank you all for coming and presenting. We really appreciate all of your expertise and sharing your information. I did get a question about if we could share the slides with participants later. So if that's okay with you all, I will follow up with you after this presentation. And I really appreciate your time and thank you everyone for attending.
Yeah, Thank you all. Bye for now.
Thank you, everybody.